Thank you for joining. Um, so today is the World Diabetes Day. Every 14th of November, we celebrate the World Diabetes Day and also the World Kindness Day. Be kind to someone out there. Be loving to someone out there. So today we were talking about diabetes and we'll be making special reference to diabetes workplace lifestyle, and that is what we'll be looking at today. And okay, that's fine. Thank you for joining. So we already know diabetes is for me, I call it a metabolic kind of disease that um, can when it worsen, it's when it worsen, it leads to other deteriorating health issues like the foot ulcer, the eye problem, hypertension, and all that, according to research. And today, why we focused on workplace life practice, lifestyle, and diabetes is because the lifestyle that is being practiced among workers sometimes is a sedentary lifestyle. Why when their target is just to deliver on the job and have the best. And sometimes the health is not more of a concern to them. Now, when you come to a work environment and the food environment there does not serve you healthy meal, if you continue with such practice, that is poor food practice, for a while, it becomes a risk factor, can lead to overweight, then obesity, and then a risk factor for diabetes, right? Beautiful. Now, have you ever wondered or like on your own just think about this right now? The type of meal that is being served in offices during meeting hours, during lunch hours, what type of meal do they serve? Highly sugary meal in some cases, you know, poor meal, highly processed meal, and these have effect on the staff. Then what about exercise? When some people get to work, most times the only exercise they get to do is just climbing the staircase. Like that's a little. Climbing the staircase can be the little, and it may not even take up to 5 minutes to do that. That's quite a very light one. And all these lifestyle practice have an effect on individual. All these lifestyle practice, when accumulated for time, can actually lead to diabetes. We have different types of diabetes. We have the type 1 diabetes, we have the type 2 diabetes, we have the gestational diabetes, and all and all and all. But our interest today is on diabetes and workplace practice. The kind of practice you put on your employees can actually make their health better even while they've retired from your firm. So it's important for owners of organizations to consider the wellness of their employees. Considering the wellness of your employees is beyond having an awareness package, being under insurance. The insurance package of your employees should also have a nutrition package attached to it, which will come like every 6 weeks. They take their body mass index, they take their waist to hip ratio, and is being documented in the office and tracked. So it can easily detect an employee who is at who is healthier. On the dashboard, scores are given. This scores shows that this person is maintaining a healthy lifestyle. You don't list the ones that are not maintaining lifestyle. It's just between you and those employees, right? But the ones that their scores are really commendable, you bring it out. This person is maintaining a healthy lifestyle. What does that entail to the organization? Entails that if this person is maintaining a healthy lifestyle, the person will be more productive, right? Yes, deliver more results in the organization. And even when the person retired from the organization, the person will be at lower risk of having non-communicable disease. Is that okay? Now, what kind of food environment do we have? That's another thing to look at. The food environment that you have at the workplace, most times the food environment are not encouraging highly energy dense food, highly processed food, you know, plus the physical inactivities that workers experience, which can lead to overweight, obesity, and then diabetes and other life-threatening diseases. Now, Lutz can spend 1/3 of 24 hours working in an office, right? If he spends this time, what time does he have for physical exercise? What time does he now have to relieve himself from stress, to have a better sleep, and to eat healthy? These are lifestyles that need to be checked at workplaces so that staff, employees can really live well. And this calls to the attention of the head of organization to know that the health of these individuals are really, really okay. So that when they retire or when they move to a job, another job, they move healthier. Now, let's talk about the type 1 diabetes, which is more like an autoimmune disease, right? Characterized by targeted destruction of insulin producing pancreas beta cells. Now, we don't want to, I don't want to go to technical about it, okay? So, we're also going to look at what research, so some researches, I have to cite these researches because they come with figures, and I can't give a figure without a backing, right? They say type 1 diabetes represents 5 to 10% of all diagnosed diabetes cases and most often develop in children and adolescents. That brings me back to adolescent nutrition. When I say that adolescent is a very critical stage, it is a stage that you really check what these children are eating so that they don't have issues while growing. Okay? Now, according to research in the US, the incidence rates among non-Hispanic white American is like 24.8 per 100, where you have 11.3. And this, when you look at this thing, these figures mentioned, you know that they are related to environmental, food consumed, and also genetic plays a role. So it's more like genetic and not genetic factors influencing this. So several environmental factors have also been seen, like early infant nutrition. Remember this type 1 that I mentioned, I said that is commonly developed in children and adolescents. That is why whatever you're eating, you have to be very careful because your child is looking at what you're eating. Your child is copying what you're eating. Eating is a learned behavior, and if you don't teach, preach, and eat the same thing, they will not follow. And if they start a poor eating habit from childhood, progresses to adolescence, and then to adults, they will be prone to not just diabetes but different health issues because they were exposed to the wrong eating habit from early childhood and over a very long period of time. Sorry. So the several environmental contributors to this: early infant nutrition, right? Viral infection, gut, and even diabetes status. Okay. Then early exposure to complex foreign protein in dairy and gluten may stimulate autoimmunity in genetically susceptible infants. This was this particular figures given is from um, a research from Tama et al. and and the topic of this research, the topic of the paper's topic is type 1 diabetes mellitus, retrospect and prospect. Okay, now let's now look at the type 2. What about the type 2? It accounts for 90% of approximately 537 million cases of diabetes worldwide. Not said by me, but said by Etsama et al. The publication is in Lancet and the title is type 2 diabetes, right? Now, the number affected is increasingly with alarming trend in children and adults not up to 40 years. And one thing is that early detection is key. Not just early detection and adequate management is very, very crucial for preventing and also mitigating the complication and also the mortality burden, right? Then, down to another research that said in US alone, the number of Americans suffering from diabetes has increased from 23.6 million in 2007 to 25.8 million at the start of 2011. This is old data. I don't know what the new data is talking about right now. But looking at this data, um, you notice that the increment is also tied to lifestyle. And this type 2 diabetes is quite a progressive disease by different metabolic defects and it affects multiple organs. If you've been close to someone with diabetes or you know someone or you've worked in clinic where people have diabetes, take home for treatment and everything, you notice that you're treating this at the next time the person is diagnosed of other is being diagnosed of other illnesses. And when someone with diabetes have a foot ulcer, the tendency of healing is lower compared to someone who does not have diabetes, right? Now, then other things that affect that also linked to this diabetes, the type 2 diabetes is, for instance, there's what they call the diabetes retinopathy, which is the leading cause of blindness among adults aged 20 to 74 years having diabetes. It's called diabetes retinopathy, right? Mhm. We also have the diabetes nephropathy that affect approximately 40% of type 2 diabetes patients and is the leading cause to chronic disease. Normally, when you hear nephro, you know we're talking about kidney. When you hear retinal, you know we're talking about eye. Okay. So what I said now is under early treatment of type 2 diabetes by Richard E. Prattry. That is where you find this. I'm saying this because of the figures quoted so that you can look up to the researches, the journals to reconfirm. Because anything that has to do with health, science is fact. So when you quote figures, you also trace it to the scientific report that gave those figures. Right. So the main defects contributing to development of type 2 diabetes is this impaired insulin secretion, insulin resistance in peripheral tissues such as the adipose, the muscle, and the liver. But we're not here to do all more technical. What we're after is what is the way out. Since that this is not it's now it's not a death sentence, but it's now something that both the young and the old are suffering this sickness. Growing up, diabetes was like what I know, a disease I know for older people. But recently, younger people they're having diabetes. So it's something that calls for a quick check to a lifestyle practice, to food choices. And someone may be wondering, what if it's genetic? What do I do about it? Someone will be wondering, my job doesn't give me time to even take exercise. I come back so tired that I don't have time to prepare a meal for myself. If you care for your health, you will have time to do that preparation for yourself, okay? Now, we also have the pre-diabetes, which is normal glucose homeostasis being compromised. Sometimes people may check their glucose level and they'll tell you, their blood sugar level, yeah, yeah, same thing. Maybe fasting or the rest. They'll check and say, see, I think I'm diabetic. At that point, the best thing to do is watch what you're eating. If you're overweight, work on reducing your weight because it will help. Engage in physical activities for yourself because physical inactivity will not help. Okay? Hello. Okay. And there's some races that also have higher risk of having diabetes and others. Women who their baby weigh very high and were diagnosed of gestational diabetes have also risk of having diabetes later if they don't check it. All right. Hypertension, women with PCOS syndrome, they also have the tendency of having diabetes, especially the ones that are obese or overweight. Early treatment is very key. Early treatment is very key. And in early treatment, number one is weight management. Weight management is one. If you're diabetic, you have to always stay hydrated. Diabetes or not, you just have to stay hydrated. Physical activity, eating healthy. Eating healthy. Sometimes people ask questions like, should I eat anything? Are there food that I should avoid? Uh, Highly processed food is one food that is always, we always speak that you should cut down on how you consume highly processed food. But at the same time, you need to be very, 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 very careful. You need to check food and their glycemic index. If you're already having it, you need to work around eating foods that have lower glycemic index than food that have high glycemic index. For example, when it comes to fruits classification and comes to starchy root classification and all that, grains, legumes, there's some have high glycemic index. You can't compare cucumber to watermelon. Watermelon glycemic index is higher than that of cucumber, and cucumber is a better option for someone that is having diabetes, right? You have your fonio. These are healthy food that you can eat. You want to take your brown rice. So you're not being restricted to some of the food you are used to, but you are being taught about um uh, calorie counting, and also what's it called, portion control. That's a word. Portion control is another word. Portion control. What quantity are you taking this? And no matter the quantity, you have to be physically active. You have to hydrate yourself. If you're a woman that had gestational diabetes, you need to be very, very careful so that it doesn't resurface later in life. And you also have to monitor the child and other kids you have at home. Thank you so much for joining. I'll be expecting your questions.